Hey, good morning on the chain community. This is Jeff here on the HODL review, bright and early, coming to you with a steaming hot cup of Segfredo espresso. So let's get some of that first. But I do want to welcome everybody in. There is a lot of great things that we want to dig into. But today I really wanted to focus in on protecting your digital asset from hackers. We could get into that, but also we need to focus in on protecting your XRP, to protecting your crypto gains. That could be whether or not you're investing in Doge, in Bitcoin, in Litecoin, in Polkadot, doesn't matter. Protect your gains, all the things that we really need to be cognizant of that are going around us, going on all around us. We can't be passengers in this. We have to be active participants, and it really highlights why we need to see more decentralization. And what will that decentralization bring? We need to get into that and a little bit more. Let's go. All right, we're back. That was the longest intro. We've been doing these short intros, and that intro was just a little bit too long. So good morning. Why don't you guys, as you come in, just give us a shout out, where you guys are tuning in from. This is going to ramp up relatively quickly because we have a lot to cover in a very short period of time. So let's see some of the things that we are going to discuss, and I'm trying to figure out, where exactly do we want to put all these different items. And so I'm going to start, if so, from a protection perspective, we're thinking about how do we actually structure protecting our digital assets? What are some of the things that we're up against when we think about protecting our digital asset gains? Now, unfortunately, fortunately, the market is moving forward. Unfortunately, there are certain powers that be that want to take away your gains. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, what that means, and what we can actually do about it from those that want to take your gains. They want to take your capital gains. They want to take your investments. And they want to redistribute that. So we're going to get into that because right now, I think first and foremost, when we get into this, let's share our screen here. All right, let's get this up on the screen because here's some critical elements. Now we're moving into May 1st. So this is very timely. May 1st, and we're starting to see nothing but green in the market. Now, Ethereum is putting up high highs, so all-time highs, getting ready to hit that $3,000 mark. It's very relevant because at the very same time, BNB is over 600. So we're talking about the Binance coin. The only use case of the Binance coin, well, obviously to get some gains. This was at $10, $12 at the low of the market. Right now sitting at $626. It says it all. XRP hovering in that 157 to 160 mark. You've got Dogecoin stuck around 35. Cardano's making some big gains. Polkadot coming back as well. Bitcoin Cash back over $1,000 with Bitcoin Cash. This is massive. Stellar is staying very, very stable in that high 40s to low 50 mark. And then you kind of keep going down. But if we look at the top digital assets, the top coins from Bitcoin to XRP, let's look at the top four. 13% in the past 7 days, 21% gains in the past 7 days, 18% and then XRP still sitting at that 34%. Then you get down to Doge, 44% gain, and Cardano at 16%. So we're definitely seeing some positive trend in the market where it's moving. It's not stagnant. It's not going in reverse, but we are moving forward. And to me, that's massive. That really is massive. Now you get these gains, and here you are. Let's say you bought your BNB. Let's say you bought XRP at 20 cents. Now it's at $1.60. There's some unrealized gain there. There's potentially some realized gain there. You've sold. Maybe you're still holding. Whatever. Norseman, the math lead. We're going to look at numbers. So, what can we do at this moment in time to be very cognizant of all the different elements out there that want to take away your gains from you? Well, number one in the space, let me move this over here. Now, there's some controversy over this, internal controversy, because you could put your digital asset up on an exchange like an Uphold or a Coinbase and feel relatively secure that nothing is going to happen to your digital asset. Now, if you go over, hang on, here we go. So if you go over to screen number 2 over here, and we look at the ledger. Now, why is the ledger significant? Because if we look at the ledger, and I've had digital asset on the ledger, I've taken off the ledger, put it on exchanges, but this is one thing that you can do to protect your digital asset. There used to be that terminology, if it's not your key, it's not your asset. Well, maybe Main Stream isn't going to think the same way, because Main Street isn't going to want to put their digital asset on a ledger. Main Street is going to want to feel comfortable keeping their digital assets on Coinbase or on Uphold or on Gemini, or maybe they want to put it over to Celsius. So if they put over on Celsius, they're able to stake and they're able to gain interest and actually pay pretty good dividends if you're over on Celsius, making 10.5% on USDC annually. Where are you going to get 10.5% paid on fiat currency? Nowhere. So part of protecting your investment is how do you also leverage your investment to making more gains? So think about it from a passive income perspective. And we're actually going to have Alex Mashinsky, CEO of Celsius, on with us on May 4th on Tuesday. But we need to look at all of these different elements, So we really have to look at things from the perspective of we've invested. Some people are holding, large investments. Some are holding smaller investments. And so let's look at that. Hey, quick shout out to Mixed Mix, aka J Soul. What's up, J Soul? So the ledger, that's one way, that's one mechanism, and you can protect it. But today, I really wanted to get into things that were a little bit different from, what are some of the elements that are against us that we have to be very, very cognizant of. And I wanted to bring up the ledger because, in fact, the IRS, which does the IRS really want to help protect your investment? In this scenario, the IRS actually wants help hacking cryptocurrency hardware wallets. So we need to really be very cognizant of it, because think about it from a decentralized perspective. We have a decentralized asset. We're invested in a decentralized environment. You can be in DeFi, in any of these digital assets. Now, the IRS, I get it. There's criminal activity. They want to be able to access the criminals' holdings. And if they're fully encrypted, there's no way for them to access those potentially illicitly received gains. And the IRS wants a methodology to access those wallets. And so, and this is, if there's some form of a criminal investigation that is going on, Let's see, there's all these pop-ups and all this crap. I should be on the Brave browser, and I'm not. So this is interesting because remember, uh, although this might be beneficial if you're going after criminal activity and criminal intent, for every freedom that you give up, there is also the opposite side of it. There's always a downside of every freedom that we give up. So what is up, Jay Soul? Another one. Appreciate that. So we've got Laurel. I have no other choice other than keeping my crypto on the exchange. You always have a choice. You always have a choice. But for Main Street at this point, you really have to make that determination. Are we better off keeping it on the exchange, or are you better off utilizing a ledger? So, but here you have, as we get into this and into this article, they really highlight the fact the IRS very cognizant of this, but many cryptocurrency investors store their cryptographic keys, which confer ownership of their funds with the exchange they use to transact or on a personal device. They're trying to get some understanding of what this space is. Some folks, however, want a little more security and use hardware wallets, small physical drives, which stores a user's key securely, unconnected to the internet. So they want to be able to do, their criminal investigations. We're talking about the digital forensic unit. They want a way in. Now, what happens? What happens? This is the downside of it. So here you are, you have the government actively involved in wanting to hack a secure and supposedly unhackable device. And now all of a sudden the government wants access to being able to hack those devices. So if they are now able to hack those devices, what does that say for the security of that device? That device is no longer secure. So it's, to the point of, and Chip has brought this up with Apple, Apple is not hackable. The government hasn't, I believe there might be at some point, maybe one of the devices were hacked. I don't know. Chip can talk about that. But when they got the devices of some terrorists that committed a terrorist act in California, the government wanted access to the iPhone, and Apple wasn't willing to give up access to the iPhone, which is, similar to, whether or not Ledger here, is Ledger going to give up access to the cryptography and the security of their device? And honestly, I really don't think so. I really believe that, if you want to maintain security of the ledger, then you can't allow it to be hacked. So the IRS, in this digital environment, do they have access to your banks? They can put, and lock up your bank accounts in some sort of a, criminal event. And, content consumer brings up a good point, because he consumes content, obviously. But he said the ledger would die. It would die. That would be the end of it. That'd be the end of the ledger. And the whole point of the ledger is to protect individuals' holdings in a very, difficult environment. So hey, I want to give a quick shout out to 179 Kevin. What is up? Thanks, Jeff. You and Chip knocking it out of the park as always. Appreciate that. So I like this. El Hoco, store in multiple places, ensures you never lose it all. 100%. I think this is very, very good advice. Very, very strong advice. Store it, diversify where you hold. Don't just diversify your assets that you hold, but diversify how you hold it. Put a little bit over on Coinbase, put a little bit over on Uphold, put a little bit over on Celsius if you want to gain interest. Keep some on your ledger, mix it up a little bit, leverage what you have. And El Hoco, maybe you're embodying my, the advice of my grandmother years and years ago, but my grandmother gave me that exact same advice. She said, never hold all your money in one bank. And the reason why she said that, she grew up during the Great Depression era, and and so I think it definitely created some of her financial uh, advice later on in life, and how she reacted to the environment. But even with banks, now we feel very secure in banks. However, banks, depending how much money you have, will max out in protecting you at $250,000. So you have to remember that. Also, from a banking perspective, there's other mechanisms out there, but that's not the point of the conversation. But making sure, especially when we're looking at the ledger, you could have multiple ledgers. You could have an XRP ledger. You could have your Bitcoin ledger. You could buy multiple ledgers and hold different assets on each ledger, or you can have one ledger and have all your assets. You can duplicate the ledger, put one in a safety deposit box at the bank, so it's always secure. If anything, with your keywords, put all your key phrases with that ledger. Something ever happened to you, your family could also find that ledger, and they would have the seed words in your safety deposit box. So there's all these things that you can do to protect yourself. And even if we're looking at Coinbase or Uphold, at this point in time, as we're starting to go more and more mainstream, especially since Coinbase is now public, personally, I feel more confident putting my digital assets on Coinbase, on Uphold, regardless of what you might think of them. I'm using those as pure examples, but I feel confident in that fact, that my digital assets are relatively secure. We haven't seen a major hack. However, that being said, we just saw one of the exchanges over in Turkey. So depending on where you are in the world, you have to be very cognizant. So over in Turkey, we just saw that one exchange. Now the Turkish government is coming after the exchanges, but that one CEO left Turkey with $2 billion in assets. $2 billion, took the assets and left. The Canadian exchange a year and a half or 2 years ago, or a year ago, whatever it is, Quadriga X or QX or XQ or whatever it was. So that Canadian exchange, the CEO, come to find out, held everything with a ledger. That's how he protected it. So he protected everything with a ledger. And by the way, he went to India. He took the ledger with him. And by the way, he went to a part of India that is notorious for disappearing people. And by the way, he left with, I forget how many hundreds of millions of dollars in people's assets. And by the way, there was no way to gain access to that exchange, so it's crazy. Norseman, it's a hacker mentality, Jeff. How far do you want to protect it, and how far would someone be willing to go to hack? Rule of thumb, shut your mouth on what you hold. Good point. Keep it quiet. Don't get into it. You're in the digital asset space. You're in the banking space. You're in the stock space. Everybody, you start getting a gist if you put yourself out there publicly. If not, then the scary part with the ledger, and Chip and I have talked about this a lot, and Moto Yoda brings it up. One could argue you could lose your ledger and seed words, and you could, and that would be scary. That you could lose your phone. You definitely could lose your phone. Could fall in the toilet. Could fall in the pool. Could fall in the ocean. Could fall anywhere. Say goodbye to your phone. Back it up. You keep it on Coinbase, you're relatively secure. Mine's in a safe in my and EMF bag. There you go. So always thinking the hacker mentality. Yep. Not if you're smart and store it safely. Exactly. So, I mean, you could keep, spinning and spinning and spinning, but like that guy with his Bitcoin, you lose your keywords. You have to lose access to your old address that was on your computer. And you think about how much money in Bitcoin has been lost, just disappeared, gone, mainly because people lost their security or their keys to their address. I mean, it's crazy, Moto, I think it's worth bearing in mind nothing is 100% secure. Exactly. It's not 100%. It's the protection on the back end. Is there some form of insurance? if you're invested into a Fidelity or an E-Trade and something happens to that Fidelity or E-Trade, hopefully, there's some insurance that your investment is protected. If you're holding money in a bank and something happens to JP Morgan Chase Bank, hopefully your money is somehow protected. Now, another one, Russ says, I got scammed on a 2-for-1, 3,000 XRP. There's scams out there. Some of them seem very, very legit, very legit. And in this time where every single day I get phone calls, from John, it sounds like he's out of Mumbai, and he's telling me about my social security number that has now been canceled. And you pick up the phone and it's like, hi, this is John from the IRS, and your social security number has been canceled because we have discovered that it was been used in fraudulent activity. So there's a warrant out for your arrest, and you need to call this number right away. Or there's a whole host of them, and it's amazing, so you've got those types of hackers out there. Then you've got those that are coming after you from any way, shape, or form. So you got to be very, very vigilant on what's happening, is my point. And El Hoko did say that, and he was talking about, kind of spreading it out a little bit. Make sure you remember, don't put it someplace where you're going to lose it. But clarity comes for yourself, going through the experience, not from the words of others. That's it. That's definitely it. Here's an example. Sia Coin. I missed the transition point on Sia Coin. I have a holding in Sia Coin. I can no longer access it. It was moved when they did the transition, and I sat on it. I didn't do my transition. I almost missed the transition point for Tron. I had the Tron coin, and I almost missed the transition for that. Kind of get busy. You stop thinking, but I lost my Sia Coin. And I can't access it anymore. Point learned. I won't let that happen ever again. So KTI, morning, Jeff. Is there a certain theoretical amount you would feel uncomfortable leaving on Coinbase or Uphold? I think about that all the time. It has to be based on what your risk aversion is. So let's say I have, $5,000 total invested. Do I feel comfortable if that's, your savings in your asset? Do you want to put it all in one spot? Do you feel, let's say I have 100,000. Do I feel comfortable leaving 500 or 50,000 on Coinbase? Or do I feel, it's all going to come down to your risk aversion. Personally, and that's my personal opinion, I feel relatively secure in Uphold and Coinbase that nothing significant is going to happen. I feel relatively confident and secure with Celsius. Now, nothing is 100% because we could get, a news article tomorrow that comes out and says that Uphold gets caught up in something working with who knows what, and all of a sudden the exchange shuts down. I don't think that's going to happen with Uphold, just like I don't think it would happen with Coinbase or Gemini or Bitstamp or one of the many, legit exchanges out there. I don't think that would happen with Celsius. We saw a lot of controversy with Nexo. Nexo is still around. But that's my personal opinion. I like using Celsius, personally. It took me a while. We'd had Alex Mashinsky on the show multiple times. And honestly, it took me a while to get comfortable moving asset over to Celsius. Once I did, I was very comfortable with it, and I'm comfortable with the process. But the problem is that, again, there's an unknown variable. Let's say you lose access. I don't know, Coinbase Pro. I have XRP sitting on Coinbase Pro because I bought some right before they took it down or froze the listing of XRP. It's still sitting over there. I haven't moved it off, which I probably should. I could, but it gets scary. It does, but we have to be relatively confident. This is where, there has to be a confidence level that's building, with everything. And Whale brings up another good point. 2FA. So, think about doing that, making sure that you do that. 2FA on wallets account for a lot of crypto loss. People need to learn how to keep their crypto safe, but must just rush in and buy. Yeah. You have to think about all aspects of it. Think about everything. Make sure that you keep your access to it. And so making sure that you don't store your passwords something that's accessible if somebody ended up getting control of your computer, God forbid. So I mean, there's a lot of things to think about. So Grass said the IRS is looking to hire hackers to break into hardware wallets because illegal acts happen. Right. How is it doing that sitting on a wallet? Exactly. But the individual that committed the illegal act puts it over on the wallet. Now it's over on the wallet. They want some access to it. So Oscar says, check out Kit Boga if you want to have fun listening to someone destroy scammers. Exactly. I've heard some of those. Those are awesome. A Ubi Key. If you guys don't know what a Ubi Key is, I use a Ubi Key. This is really important, because a Ubi Key helps, basically protect access to your computer. So you have access. So if you're looking at protecting access to your computer, access to your ledger, access to all these different elements, there's different layers. And now think about it in today's day and age where you're, not just concerned about your digital asset holdings, but you're concerned about other information that's on your computer. How do you properly protect yourself? And that's the most important conversation. You can buy, you can get caught up in these scams. Like I said, I get, the call from John from the IRS. You must call me once a month. I've answered the phone before and, we have an interesting conversation. I was there with a couple buddies. One of them got a call and we just, it was a crazy conversation that we had with John from the IRS or the credit card or wherever he was from. It might have been John from Microsoft. I don't know. But you have to be very, very cognizant. You have to be, pay a lot of attention. And, there's scams out there. And if you get caught up in a scam, it hurts. It hurts when you lose a little bit of asset. It definitely does. But, there's all these mechanisms. Now, I started thinking about, okay, we need to have this conversation about protecting your digital asset, protecting your phone. If you lose your phone, I mean, there's so much conversation about, the cell phone and what we do with the cell phone, and even, having, your wallet, you walk around with a credit card in your wallet, and they say, oh, with a chip and the NFC and all this, people can scan your wallets. How many of you have had your credit card hacked? I've had it at the gas station. I don't know. I go get gas. I go out to restaurants. They take your card, they disappear with your, not gas, but at restaurants. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, oh, there's some charge, coming from somewhere on my credit card. So it's happening on your credit cards. They're coming after your bank. They want to, they're, scamming you on your IRS. They're scamming you on your credit cards. They're scamming you every which way you look. There's Microsoft scams. They're scamming you every which way. Now imagine you get caught up in one of those Microsoft scams. And this is important as Main Street gets more actively involved in this conversation, because we have people from all generations, all age levels are investing in digital asset. And we have all age levels and people from all over the world that are tuning into On the Chain. So if we have people from all over the world, all of this is relevant to everybody. I don't know what kind of level of spam calls people get in other parts of the world from. They're probably not getting a call from the IRS, and they're probably not getting a call about your social security number. Don't know if you're getting a call from John from Microsoft, but it might happen. But we have to be very diligent. So for those that aren't necessarily computer savvy, you got to be very, very diligent in how you store your passwords. Now, imagine you get caught up in one of those Microsoft scams because you think it's legit. You get an email and it looks legit. Hey, you get an email from your bank. We just changed your password. Click here. Never, never, never. Doesn't matter. Any of the exchanges, any of your banks, any of your credit cards. Never click a link in your email unless you initiated that email. So many times you go to log into something and it says, we're going to send you an email with a code. That's the way to do it now. It goes to your phone or wherever. But don't click a link in your email to go log in somewhere. That's the easiest way of scamming your current data. Eventually, a lot of these big organizations do get hacked. We've seen them get hacked. And so Facebook, Google, they're all susceptible because they're being attacked every single day, and they're ramping up the attacks. And some of these other companies, and a lot of times it's just some little inefficiency somewhere, and they scam some old data. And then you get caught up in those scams. And those are scary too. You get an email and they're like, I have your password and I have this, and I'm going to do this to you, and you see the emails and they're going to, and you're going to get caught up in it. And it gets kind of crazy, so we got to think about it. But this whole conversation of, how do we protect ourselves? It goes even a step further. And the reason why it goes a step further is because, we also have other elements within society that are coming after our digital asset holdings. And now, this kills me. There we go. Can't open anything without something popping up. Now, we have to look at everything. So we're going to get into another article where you see the government, and this is in the US, is attacking gig workers for their success. There's so much that's going on, but this one right here, I think is important because we're talking about personal security. What can we do to protect ourselves? Ubi Key, Ledger, putting on the right exchanges, don't share your passwords, et cetera, et cetera. Everything we just talked about. Very, very critical. Now, take it to the next level because 2022 is right around the corner. Not to get political, because Chip and I never get political. We never, share our opinions in any way, shape, or form. But, this is really, really important because, we need to look at who's the Fed chair. How is the Fed reacting to investment in the space? How is the SEC reacting to investment in the space? How is the Treasury Secretary reacting and responding to investors in the space? How are they all impacting our investments, whether it's in digital asset or it's in traditional stock or it's in your 401k or it's in the next business you start or whatever it is? What is the impact to us personally? Now, you look at the Fed Chair Powell, he's responding, and this is just new a couple days ago, responding to the whole GameStop, Dogecoin media mania, and he says there's a froth in equity markets. Now, he's singling out what happened with GameStop and with Dogecoin. Now, look at the individuals that they're going after, and you look at some of the statements that they make, and you look at how they spin it, because at the end of the day, those elitists, and there's many of them in government, that don't believe that the smaller retail investor should have an opportunity to bigger gains. They believe that those bigger gains need to be reserved for members of the elite community. And this seems to happen. It doesn't matter what side of politics you're on. There's a subset within the political sphere that believe that these gains, these bigger gains, are reserved for their people, for their lobbyists. Now, when we get into this decentralized concept of DeFi, and we're starting to see it, you're starting to see it with Celsius, the types of interest gains that you can have, not the 0.5% that you'll get at a bank, but you can put USDC, basically fiat, right? You put USDC, you can put it over on Celsius and get 10.5% on your money. 10.5%. That's amazing. But here, now we're looking at individuals that made a lot of money in GameStop. Granted, people lost. There's a lot of immature investors in this space. Why? Because they're new to investing. When you go to school, when you're in high school, does anybody in an economic class ever talk to you about how to make money when you come out of high school. How do you balance a checkbook? How do you open a bank account? How do you leverage your money? How do you earn passive income? When you go to college, is there a course that teaches you how to earn passive income or how to truly invest in stock? As a mandatory class in college to prepare individuals when they come out of college into the workforce and how to better their lives? No, it's non-existent. Now, when you're born into this environment, or your mindset is tweaked in this environment where you go to school for economics, you're able to build yourself up from the bottom, and you end up in finance, and you end up at this level that a Jerome Powell or his elitist cohorts are at. Then from that perspective, they look back down on all the retail investors and say, well, you as a retail investor, you shouldn't have access to all of our investment vehicles. And this is where, you see a direct limitation of the types of the stock, when and how much you're allowed to invest in the early stages. Now, again, they're trying to single it out to protect you as a retail investor. Now, they're singling out Dogecoin because Dogecoin, and yes, are people getting sucked in? 100%. I agree with that. People get sucked in to the FOMO of Dogecoin because maybe Elon Musk talks about it. Dogecoin might go back to zero. Dogecoin now has a use case tied in with Flare. Dogecoin was a joke coin. Now it has value. Now it's at 35, 40 cents. And people have made a lot of money on Dogecoin. People could lose a lot of money with Dogecoin. GameStop ramped up to $500 from double digits. It was in the teens or 20s. It was single digits, went up to 500. The big institutions were shorting it, trying to destroy GameStop. We've talked about it a lot. But yet, when they come out and talk about this, it's interesting because it's, you don't really see that that they're really focused on how do we support and protect the retail investor. It's more, how do we make sure that the retail investor moving forward doesn't necessarily have the access to these types of things. Look, retail traders made their presence increasingly felt in the markets last year amid the boredom. This is why, right? So this is what the focus. People were bored, so they decided they were going to start investing. This is their thought process. They're bored, and this is what happened. So come on. I just want to, I don't know if I saw this one, want to pull this one up. KTI, can the Ledger Nano wallet or website be hacked? Periodic updates sent by Nano needed when using the laptop version. I think that's what the IRS is really focused on, is getting hackers together to provide a mechanism to hack those hardware wallets. I believe Ledger was hacked. User data was hacked and taken from Ledger, but the wallet is not hackable unless they get you access to your hardware or your seed words, because that hardware wallet and your seed words is what gives you access to your wallet. And so I think that's a real, key point to hone in on. So, all right. So, so we look at this now. Why would they say boredom? I mean, come on. People are trying to better themselves. And granted, maybe people lost money. Sometimes you lose money when you're investing. You could put in GameStop, AMC, I don't care what you put it into, your investment could go down to zero in many investments. Not saying that it will. You could have bought Coinbase at $429 at the height of the market, and now it's under 300. You've lost a whole bunch of money. And now you're like, holy crap, I lost my money. I've got to sell. And so you sell out of it because you're not holding, you're trying to look at the short-term gain. You get scared, you leave, and you lose money. And this is it's a vicious cycle. There's a lot of investors get caught up in that. I've been caught up in it personally, where you go into it based on emotion and you sell based on emotion. and you're constantly following the herd. You're following the FOMO or the FUD. And we've talked a lot about that there's a lot of FOMO and FUD in the marketplace, and people, and they want to tie you in. So you got to protect yourself. You don't want to sell at the bottom and you don't want to buy at the top. And that's where all of the news, all of the media, all of the Jerome Powells of the space, all the Janet Yellens, they're gearing the retail investor up to buy at the top and sell at the bottom. Sorry, that's just how it is. So let me see. The higher personal savings levels and stimulus checks from the government encourage amateur investors to dabble in the stock market and helped accelerate. I agree with this. There's people that weren't investing in stock before that are investing in stock now, mainly because they got extra money and they said, it's not my money. I'm going to invest it. I'm going to try to do something with it. They get caught up. And maybe they lose because you're getting into that emotional. You're watching it every minute of every day, and it gets emotional. And so it's just interesting. So that's just one. Now let me go. Hang on. So let's go through as we kind of go through this theme. And right now we're seeing some major shortages out there. We'll get into that in a minute. There's some, also some news on the Bitcoin front, but I wanted to bring this one in because this is also impactful. This is really, really impactful. Now, we have to understand, and I didn't pull anything up today on capital gains tax or anything like that. I haven't pulled this one up yet, but when we look at crypto gains, now let me explain this one. So let me share this screen, and then we're going to get a little bit more into the conversation. So one of the things that we know is that Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary in the US, had a proposal to tax unrealized gains. Now, an unrealized gain is a gain that you have, whether on your stock or your digital asset. It's the gain between what you bought it at and what the current price is. You can have an unrealized loss. If you paid 100 and it's 50, you have an unrealized loss of 50 because you haven't sold it yet. As soon as you sell it, it becomes realized. Then that $50 loss becomes a realized loss. If you invested 100 and it went up to 150, that $50 is an unrealized gain until you sell it. Now, once you sell it, it becomes a realized gain. You went from 100 to 150. You've taken a $50 gain, and that is taxable. Now, Janet Yellen, this is protecting your investment. You have to be very cognizant of what's happening around you from a political perspective, because there are money grabs taking place right now. Regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on, you have to be cognizant of the money grab. And you have to really vote based on your pocketbook. You can't vote based on handouts from the government. You can't vote on promises from the government. You can't vote based on this hope and a prayer. You have to really focus in on your economics. The economics is what directs you, which impacts you directly. And so we have to be very cognizant of what's happening. Now we see Janet Yellen talking about taxing unrealized gains. So that means you invest in 100, it goes up to 150, you're taxed on that $50. So I'm assuming that will be at the end of the year. Add up all of your unrealized gains. You made $50 on that stock. You now have to pay tax on that unrealized gain. Now, what are some of the tax levels they're talking about? Capital gains tax. I'm talking about unrealized, not on unrealized. Unrealized is punitive. That is a punishment for anybody that's investing. I don't care if you invest 100. I don't care if you invest $1 million. If you have an unrealized gain, any tax on that unrealized gain is a punishment. It's a punitive measure to hold you back, to make sure that you aren't gaining in life. Now, for those that invest big amounts of money, many times they have losses to offset their gains. And so you could have a loss offset some of the gains, and then you can play with the interest, and they have other write-offs and other mechanisms. And so there's a lot that can be done from a write-off perspective. The typical retail investor has their $50 gain that is meaningful, but it's unrealized. And imagine you get taxed on it. But some of the things that have been discussed recently, and I'm talking about protecting your gains, protecting your digital asset. We talk about how do we protect it from hackers. Now let's talk about how we can secure our investment. Now, Chip and I have talked about this a lot. There are, groups that we've been in that were very anti and very in favor of this current administration that's here in the US. Now they're coming out very much against, because they see the direct impact on their crypto investment. Why? Because for the first time, possibly, many people, many of us, you invest in a stock. Are you going to see that stock all of a sudden go up where you're looking and you say, I have $100,000 gain. I have a $50,000 gain. I have $1,000 gain. This is amazing, right? And now you're investing in this digital asset. Many people are hoping that XRP or Bitcoin or whatever your investment is goes up, so you become the next Bitcoin millionaire, Bitcoin billionaire, Bitcoin 100,000aire, whatever it is, XRP 100,000aire, XRP 10,000aire. I don't care, whatever it is, whatever you've invested, whatever your objective is, whatever your mindset is, you hope to be that. Now imagine you have $100,000 gain on your XRP or your Bitcoin or whatever. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I've got $100,000 gain. I've never seen that kind of gain from my money before. I want to sell it. I want to buy a house. So now you sell it, right? So let's say it's $100,000 gain. Realized capital gains tax that's being proposed right now, 43%, 60%, 80%. There's been a lot of different things that have been levied. There was a time where it's even higher than that. There's some countries out there that do punish investors, and they do tax those types of gains at a very, very high level. So right now, imagine even at 43%, not even at a regular income tax level, right? So imagine your regular income tax level, 25%, 30%, 35%, whatever it might be, you're getting taxed. But now imagine they say capital gains 43%. So your 100,000 is now worth 57,000. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with the fact that you just lost $43,000? You're looking at, I have 100,000. That 100,000 is meaningful to me. I could go buy a house tomorrow. But the government says, no, we're raising your capital gains tax to 43%. We're taking $43,000 of that gain. We're taking it. Now you look at it, you're like, holy crap, I just lost $43,000. This is my money that I invested. I put it in there. I'm the one that, that needs to go and buy the house. But the government decides differently because they want punitive damages against the retail investor. Why? Because that retail investor that just increased by 100,000 doesn't have an offset to write off some of the gain to diminish the amount of money you have to pay. So you just lost it. Now imagine it was $500,000. Imagine it was $1 million. Imagine you have $1 million in gains and you're 43%, right? 43%, $430,000 taken away from you. So now you look, hey, I've got $1 million in the bank in my digital asset. Nope, sorry. If you cash it in, based on the current ideas, 43%. Based on Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary's idea, you'd be punished every year that your asset increases in value. You have to take personal accountability to what's happening on that level. Now let's take it a step further and let's get into this article here, because that's bad. We have to be very, very cognizant of everything that is happening around us. Now let's look at this one. So Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash stocks plunge after the labor secretary says that gig workers should be classified as employees. Now, do you know how detrimental that is to many individuals? As a gig worker, as a 1099 employee, as a contract employee that is driving for a living, Uber, Lyft, or DoorDash, you can have and you talk to your CPA, your accountant, you can have all of your earnings go to a corporation. You can incorporate yourself. I could be Jeff Inc. I could be Jeff LLC. And every dollar that I make from Uber, from Lyft, goes to my corporation. From my corporation, I can then pay my business expenses, right? And so your certain business expense, your vehicle, your gas. I mean, there's all these different things that can be paid off because of what you're doing for a living. Talk to your CPA, talk to your accountant. They can tell you how to orchestrate that. But what they're saying is, no, we don't want these people to be gig workers. These are maybe full-time. They're working full-time. Maybe they're working part-time. Maybe they made a business of it. I've met Uber drivers. The reason why I bring this up is because I have met Uber drivers, and that's how they had everything structured. And many of them are coming from other countries. They're over here and they're there to benefit themselves. They're there to benefit themselves. They're trying to build themselves up. I met one, it was like a family of Uber drivers, and they had multiple vehicles on the road, and they were structuring this whole, Uber pool, whatever it was. But imagine now all these individuals are employees. Now these drivers have now lost the ability. They've lost the ability to benefit themselves. They've lost the ability to build on themselves. Plus, you're now burdening these companies, Uber and Lyft and others, with employment tax and all these other overhead mechanisms that will then force them to pay their drivers even less. So, from this perspective, why do I bring this up? Why is this so key that, when we look at this, that they want to change the classification of a gig worker, and how does that impact us? So, hey, what is up, Jason? Man, appreciate that. Really appreciate that. Thank you. So, how does this impact us? So from a decentralized perspective, imagine right now we're looking at developing and building in the space, in the DeFi space, the decentralized space, and we see punitive measures coming out of every aspect of this current administration from an economic level. Regardless of how you feel politically, I don't care. I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. You have to look at what's real. You have to look at what's being said. You have to look at what they want to do. Now, at the same time, regardless of how you look at this, regardless of what's going on, this is real. This is what's happening right now. They're a major attack against all different elements that allow you to benefit your own life. Now, here's another one, right? Soaring lumber prices. Why are there soaring lumber prices right now? What's going on that there's soaring lumber prices? Why are lumber prices so high right now? What is going on? And you could say it's only lumber prices, it's wood. Maybe there's something going on in the wood space. But to buy a house right now, $36,000 to a new home. $36,000. If you want to go and do something, you're building in your house, it's gone up so high. It's insane, exponentially. This is because of what's happening right now. Now, here's another one that's insane, right? Chlorine prices. What? Yes, there was a fire in one of the chlorine factories, but a major chlorine shortage is set to spoil summertime fun. And yes, we've had people build swimming pools because of what happened, but I don't know, down here, there's some people that put pools in. It's a regular course of action down in Florida anyways. People are just doing their thing, but yet the price of chlorine is increasing exponentially to the point there's a shortage. Don't tell me they're not all connected. There's no such thing as a coincidence that all of a sudden there's an increase in demand of everything, that this is what's going on. Come on. There's always lumber sitting everywhere. All of a sudden, lumber prices are going up exponentially. All of a sudden, chlorine prices are short, and they're going up exponentially in price. All of a sudden, food is going up in price. All of a sudden, gas is going up in price. All of a sudden, there's major inflation. And the one mechanism to protect us on the digital asset crypto side, right? If you want to protect you on a crypto side, is the leverage against the inflation. Why did MicroStrategy put the billions of dollars into Bitcoin? Why did Elon Musk put, over $1 billion into Bitcoin? Why are people in Turkey? Why did they want to flee to Bitcoin? Why did people in Venezuela want to flee to Bitcoin and other digital assets? Why do people in Cyprus want to flee to Bitcoin and digital asset? Why do people in Lebanon want to flee to crypto and Bitcoin and other digital assets? All for the exact same reason, due to severe inflation and horrible socialist economic policy that was punitive measures against the individual, against the retail investor. That's it. That is the whole focus. That's the whole point. You have to protect your interest, protect your investment from many different levels. Want to give a quick shout out to the Yeti baby coin. So you guys have seen my son come in here before. So anyhow, so that is, everything in a nutshell. Protect yourself. Be very cognizant. For those in the US, 2022 is a telling year. 2022 is where we take back our independence, our economic independence. 2022 is where you say to the overzealousness of this administration, and you say, look, we're not going to pay 80% in capital gains tax on our cryptocurrency. We're not willing to pay 43% capital gains tax on our cryptocurrency. We're not willing to pay unrealized gains, pay a tax on unrealized gains. We're not willing to do it. And this is all over the world. Why? Because all over the world, the DeFi space, the decentralized space, is symbolic of bringing back power to the people where it belongs. Power in the hands of the people. It doesn't and shouldn't be only reserved for the elitists at the top that are pulling the strings, giving people the opportunity to continue. So that's the theme. That's the measure. And that's it. If you guys are brand new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifier. That way you get notified every time we go live here on the chain, which we happen to do Sunday through Thursday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have a special guest coming up with us on Tuesday, May 4th, Alex Mashinsky from Celsius, CEO of Celsius, will be with us live on Tuesday, on May 4th. We'll get that thumbnail. We'll get that out by tomorrow, so you guys can make sure that you reserve your spot. Make sure you put your notification on. Make sure you make it to our stream with Alex Mashinsky. Chip and I will be back on tomorrow night for the roundtable, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And all those that have supported us with super chats, appreciate you guys. And we will check you guys out. We are the free people. We will check you out on the next one. See ya.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.